It's Thanksgiving week, and of course, the two ugly cousins of the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars
Don't call
match
me
up.
ugly.
It's Crossover Thursday, folks. Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's week 13 in the NFL, and finally, we get the matchup that we all wait for every single year, the Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am the host of Locked On Titans, Tyler Rowland, here with the host of Locked On Jags, Tony Wiggins. Also, both of us happen to be hosts of Locked On NFL, the afternoon and morning show, so make sure you guys check that out for your NFL news. But a lot to dive into in this game. We got to talk about the keys to victory for both teams, how they're going to win. We're going to talk about the big matchups to watch in this one. We're going to talk about the biggest storylines for both of these teams heading into this matchup. Before we do, though, I do want to let you know that today's episode is presented by Prize Picks, because Crossover Thursday is always presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And thank you for making Locked On Titans, Locked On Jags your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Tony, I say we're the ugly cousins of the AFC South. I got to be clear. I ain't talking about us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're out here killing it. Look at the hair. You got the beard on lock. We've been balling in that regard. These teams, though, have been the ugly cousins that no matter what kind of job you got the new house, the new car, you moved to the city, it doesn't matter. When these two teams get together, we're ugly cousins wrestling in the mud. And I know Jacksonville's had a good season, and you tell us why it's been such a good season, but you know, like I know, these teams just make each other ugly.
No, they do. And we don't give each other any credit either. So
Never.
The thing is you can lose 40 pounds. You know what I'm going to say? I ain't going to tell you how good you look. I'm going to say, I'm glad you lost weight because you used to be so fat and sloppy. That's the kind of stuff that we do around here, man. But ain't nobody taking y'all lightly. I saw what y'all been doing the last couple of weeks with these good teams that y'all been playing, and they barely been getting away. And you know what? That's right in our wheelhouse, because we've been barely getting away from some people too. But, that's why I think, you can't ever discount these two teams in this game. I remember a few years back, I believe it was 2023, you guys came in here and had a lead, and it looked like we needed a miracle, and we got one. And then I remember the year before that, we were there, we got beat, and Jarrell Casey and Malik Jackson were arguing at each other, and then we went on a run to go through the playoffs in 2017 and almost went to the Super Bowl. So any and everything can happen when these two teams get together.
100%. Remind the end of 2023 when I wanted the Titans to get a better draft pick, and they found a way to beat Jacksonville. It just, these teams, no matter who's good, who's bad, if the Titans are good, the Jags are bad, vice versa. These teams are always gonna play it tight, it seems. But Jacksonville has kind of been turning things around. And honestly, Tony, on my show, Locked On NFL, my version, I've been kind of pushing, hey, I think Jacksonville can get back in and win this division. I know things have been up and down. You had the loss to the Texans where they came back, barely beat the Raiders, barely beat the Cardinals. I know, but that's mixed in with a 35-6 trouncing of the Chargers, who are a really good team. Who the heck are these Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, that's who they are. You just said it. That's who they are right there, without a doubt. And that's who some of their players are. Trevor Lawrence is that way. I mean, he'll look like John Elway one minute and Trent Dilfer the next. It just happens like that. But it's a team that's learning how to win. And I always say, and I've been saying this, they're very, very close to being 9-2. They got cheated in Cincinnati, and then they lost a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter against Houston, when all they needed to do on like 3 different occasions is make 1 first down, and Houston runs out of time. So this is it's just who they are. They're learning how to win. I'm glad they're 7-4, and we're scratching our head as opposed to being 4-7. I said they could be 9-2. They could very well also sit here and be 4-7 because they won some games they had no business winning. And like last week against the Cardinals, they should have lost. The way the NFL formula goes, everything went against them, and they should have lost that game. But you have to learn how to win and put that in your DNA. They only got blown out once. and that was against the Rams. Okay, and
Yeah.
then the other game where
Best team in the league.
right, and then the other game that they lost, where they clearly weren't the better team that day, was against Seattle, maybe the second or third
The second
best
best
team in
team.
the league.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but they did manage to beat Kansas City. They managed to beat L.A., the Chargers, and those two games have significance because at the very least they're fighting for a wild card, right?
Yes.
If they end up in a tie with those two teams, unless it's some weird, funky 3-team tiebreaker, they beat them both head to head. So the Jaguars have those tiebreaker scenarios against those two teams, and those two teams still have to play each other. So we're not sitting here trying to back in. We're not looking in the rear view mirror. The thing I like about Liam Cohen and this crew, it is all gas, no brakes. They have the pedal to the floor. They're aggressive, and they're just going to keep fighting and scrapping. And now, mind you, they're doing this with very limited output this year from Brian Thomas Jr. He's banged
Right.
up. Before he got
Can't believe that.
he wasn't even there, with almost nothing except one really, really good game from Travis Hunter. He's on IR for the rest of the year. Not a real serious injury. He'll be fine in 6 months. Trayvon Walker has been in and out of the lineup. Jordan Lewis, their prize nickel signing in free agency, has been out the last 3 or 4 weeks. Eric Murray has been out the last 3 or 4 weeks. So they're really doing this thing without getting production from some guys who will actually come back this year. And sometimes it's good for dudes to sit around and watch, and they see what guys can do without them, and then they say, okay, now I trust them. So we'll see if that's the way it plays out, but we ain't going to put the cart before the horse. They got a real tough game this week against the scrappy Tennessee Titans and that young quarterback of yours.
Well, I'm telling you, that leads perfectly into what I think the big storyline for the Titans is here. The vibes with the Titans is they've been playing better football. I mean, they really have 2 one-score wins. And look, the bar is low. The first half of the season, Tony, that is the worst Tennessee Titans team I've ever seen in 25 years, 26 years of liking the team. I've never seen them be as bad as they were the first half of this season, but credit where it's due. You come out, you play real tight with the Houston Texans, who are a good football team, the best defense in the NFL. Come back against, like we just said, I think Seattle's a top 2, top 3 team in the NFL. And listen, that game wasn't as close as the score looks. The Titans scored 2 touchdowns late to make it look closer than it was. But the fact that they could even score 2 touchdowns late on offense, like the Titans don't do that very often. So that's led by Cam Ward, who is really, I wouldn't say he's breaking out in the sense of he's turning into a superstar or something, but I think he's breaking out into the next version of himself. Like the first, half of the season, he's a rookie, and he looked like a rookie. The team sucked, but he wasn't playing his best either. He had little flashes, but these last 2 games, he's put it together, 65% completion percentage or better. He's been top 10 in QBR both weeks. Like, he's really starting to, despite, you want to talk about bad circumstances, average Jacksonville Jaguars fan, name a wide receiver the Titans are using right now. Well, I guess down in Florida, they know about Chim DK. Probably him having a good season. We'll get there. But, yeah, I think the big story is, can the Titans keep playing better football? Can Cam Ward keep looking like this rather than how he looked in the first half of the season, which for a rookie is to be expected that they would get better. But I agree with you, and kind of I've been setting it up. I'm scared about this game because the Titans really need that number 1 pick so they can trade back and get a bunch of picks and kind of do this rebuild right. But Trevor Lawrence does just enough in the turnover realm where he'd give the ball away. The Titans have a little bit of momentum, and this being a divisional matchup, like we talked about, these 2 teams always play close. It does have me a little worried. But with that being said, we got to talk about the matchups that will determine this game. And no shock to anybody, me and Tony are going to spend some time talking about the trenches.
Ooh.
Do want to let you guys know that today's Crossover Thursday is presented by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, hey, you want to get in on the action? You want to ride the hot hand? FanDuel has everything you need. Live bets on who's going to score next, fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you hit your first $5 bet. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Tony, let's continue today's crossover Thursday edition. Locked on Titans, Locked on Jags. Thank you for making us your first listen, and thank you for making the Locked on Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. We talked about the storylines for these teams, kind of the vibes around the teams coming into this game, but now we need to talk about the trench battle, the matchups that I really want to dive into, because, Tony, I think one of the things that people may be surprised to hear is that this Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line has been a good unit this year. And I think where we think about Trevor Lawrence all the time when we talk about the Jags, that's kind of the focal point. That run game is what I'm really worried about. And the Titans have been better against the run here in recent weeks. Seattle was tough, but, they have a real good run game and good backs. But I would say that Jacksonville's run game is even better than that. Can you talk a little about the offensive line's performance and how that run game has been deadly this year?
Yeah, they fight. They fight really, really hard. They had a couple of tough games. One of them was against Seattle that you mentioned. And it's just they just could not move those dudes out of the way. And I had even talked to Corbin that week, and Corbin said that they had a little trepidation about their line, even though statistically they hadn't given up a whole bunch at that point early in the year. Statistically, they were really good, but they had some dudes that had not been playing. And so when they got them all back, it all came together against Jacksonville. It seems like it's still coming together for them.
It's still going, yeah.
Yeah, Leon Searcy, former Jag great, told me in training camp, I just want a stalemate. Our offensive line was terrible. It's like the way you hear people in Arizona talk about their line, that's how we talked about the Jaguars line for the last 3 or 4 years. So we got a stalemate. They went out and got Pat McCary, and they got Robert Hainsey. They got professionals, guys that are just pros that understand. Chumi Doga, who's probably going to be out this week. They went and got a lot of people. They have Anton Harrison and Walker Little. Walker Little leaves a little bit to be desired sometime in pass protection.
A little to be desired.
But he can run block. And Ezra Cleveland might be the best of all of them. So they've had to move around a little bit because guys got nicked up. They're now getting healthy and had some issues with their protection last week on some blitzes. And then in the second half went to slide protection. But they are a team that wants to break the huddle, and they want you to see him coming. And Travis Etienne, he is everything. He is finally looking like the dude that came out of Clemson, because this is the ultimate. What is around the player has affected the way people feel about that player. He's actually playing on his 5th-year option. But then you get Bayshaw Tootin, a day 3 pick who can really put him one in front of the other. He's the fastest running back to the combine. So you get both of these dudes, but they're different. Whereas Etienne is a little shifty. Tootin ain't shifty. He's a fire hydrant. He's trying to run you over and pop, right? So he's get to the hole real quick. And then LaQuint Allen, the day 3 pick, is very, very good in pass protection. And he's the quintessential third down back. So they've had a nice little mixing in and blending in the things that Liam Cohen did with Bucky Irving and his other running back, Rashad White, down in Tampa. Sometimes you see 2 halfbacks in the game at the same time, but they really want to grind and pound the ball and make sure that whenever they need to run the ball, they can run it. You always want to run when you want to and when you need to. And for the most part, at about a 75-80% clip, they've been able to do that.
Well, people have been able to do that against the Titans all year long, but it has been, again, like I was saying, a little more difficult with Jeffrey Simmons back in the lineup, Tavondre Sweat next to him. I think that's going to be key. If the Titans have any chance to win these games down the stretch, it's got to be the Titans' interior defensive line. And I would add Sebastian Joseph Day in there, who, like you said about Robert Hainsey and Patrick McCarry, like, he is just a true professional. Sebastian Joseph Day is just another guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's just another depth player. He's not going to be somebody that people know, but he is such a great role player on the D-line to get penetration and hold his gap. And he's not perfect. He's not, an all-pro, Pro Bowl level player, and he never will be. He's making $5 million a year and probably will until he decides to retire. But those 3 guys up front can really stall out an offensive line. And with Cody Barton playing real slow at linebacker and looking his age, they got to keep him clean for him to move around. Cedric Gray, the Titans' second-year linebacker, has been excellent this year. He's a firecracker as well, going to fly around and hit people. But that Titans defensive line against the run game and the run blocking of Jacksonville's offensive line, that's something that I'm really looking for as a matchup. Is there anything in particular that you have your eye on the other way around?
Yeah. So to piggyback off what you just said, there have been times this year where even Liam has kind of hinted at it. He didn't really say it. Seattle was one game where Seattle was missing 3/4 of their secondary. So the Jaguars went into the game thinking they were going to throw the ball.
Yep.
Well, the front seven had something to say about that, right? And then they got behind and they got off rhythm, and they wanted to make sure that they played to their strengths as opposed to being overly focused on the weaknesses of their opponent. You can't lose who you are. For this week, I think it lines up. They want to run, y'all struggle against the run. So now there's no reason to abandon the things that you want to do. But this team also wants to get Trevor Lawrence opportunities to throw the ball down the field. Everybody keeps saying take a little bit off his play. No, we ain't taking nothing off his play. What are you talking about? Doug Peterson actually said that same thing one time in a press conference. He said, what do you mean take things off his plate? He's the quarterback. They're putting more on him because they see where they can go. And he has the talent to get them to where they can go. He also has a little bit of Jay Cutler in him where he'll forget who he is and turn into Jay Cutler or Jameis Winston in a heartbeat. And things tend to start compounding. My matchup for him is to be able to get over those bad plays. And he's done that the last couple of weeks. He had to do it a whole bunch in Arizona because he made like 3 or 4 bad plays. But he has to be able to get past those bad plays and not allow them to start snowballing and steamrolling. So from that perspective, I really do think that they still want to throw the ball. They still want to be aggressive with Trevor because that's just who they are. But I think they're going to do a heavy dose of running the football, have limited possessions, make sure they put pressure on the rookie. Anthony Campanile, a lot of blitz packages, a lot of different things that they're doing, sending guys up the A-gap, sending guys off the short shallow when they're in the slot. I really do believe that they're going to try to confuse and put pressure on this rookie to make him make really, really hard throws. And to me, those are the two things. How much do they unleash Trevor? And then how much do they attack Cam Ward because of the perceived weakness of him being young and he hasn't seen everything yet?
Well, finishing the Trevor Lawrence point, the Titans got attacked last week by the downfield passing game of the Seattle Seahawks. They were able to hit some passes down the field to Jackson Smith and Jigba, getting him one-on-one against the Titans safeties. And I think that's something that Jacksonville will probably look to do too, probably off of the play-action pass game if they are running the ball very well, get those safeties, linebackers leaking up, hit over top of them. I think there will be some shot plays. But moving to the defensive side of the ball, I did want to ask you about that because the Tennessee Titans offensive line seems like it should be better than it has been based on the talent and the resources that they've used there. They've had some good games. Look, having a rookie quarterback and wide receivers who don't separate very well doesn't help the offensive line either because the quarterback can hold the ball a little too much. Guys aren't as open as they typically are, but the Titans offensive line has certainly had their individual struggles where it's just on them. And now Dan Moore, Titans starting left tackle, he's not been a very good starting left tackle, but he's their starter. He might be out in this game with a knee injury. He left early and didn't come back. J.C. Latham on the right-hand side has struggled this year. He's been very up and down. And on the interior, Lloyd Cushenberry and Kevin Zeitler at center and right guard respectively, they've had their individual struggles based on certain matchups. Now, Peter Skoronski has been awesome, and he's always awesome against Jacksonville. I don't know why, but he just has his way with Jacksonville's front. But now you're talking about an uber aggressive front, bringing blitzes from different places. I know Josh Hines-Allen has had a lot of pressures and maybe the sack numbers haven't looked there and Walker's been in and out of the lineup. How has Jacksonville been able to get that pressure when you're talking about blitzing in the A guy? Who are the guys who are bringing that pressure then?
They've been using Devin Lloyd in that role once he came back
this year.
He missed 3 or 4 weeks. He's the player, the NFL Defensive Player of the Month, the first month of the season. But then they got Dennis Gardeck. Gardeck, he gives them a little bit of a different gait when it comes to how he moves. He's a little dude. He's 6'2", 230 pounds, but he has this knack, and he's super, super fast, and he gets to the backfield really, really fast. Like you say, Josh Allen has been good. Eric Armstead, from an interior standpoint, has been a real, real good rusher. And when they did have Trayvon, he hasn't necessarily been ruled out this week. He was having the best season of his career, which that's a lot because he's had every year he's been in the league, regardless of how good Aiden Hutchinson is or whatever. Trayvon Walker has lived up to being the number 1 overall pick, and he has had a very, very good season, coming off of 2 consecutive 10-sack seasons. But it's just that for some reason, with the flow of the game, they went through a stretch where they weren't getting pressure. And they also have another 2 undrafted free agents, Danny Strigow as well as B.J. Green. When they've had to call their number over the last couple of weeks, those guys have really, really stepped up. So I don't think that edge rusher, because when you got 2, one that you already paying, one that you're going to have to pay real soon because you picked up the 5th-year option and you're going to give them a contract extension. It's like, where do you go? You use another first-round pick? Nope, they don't have one of those anyway next year. You're going to give Trey Henderson $25 million and have him rotating? Nope, you have to develop people. And that's what they've done with these 2 guys. So that's been a big, big deal for them. They've also had some inopportune penalties when it comes to hitting the quarterback. And they've gotten called for driving the quarterback into the ground. And one of them, the dude didn't even land on the quarterback.
Yeah,
so
it's insane.
The inopportune areas in that respect has kept teams on the field a little bit too long. But they're better. They're a lot better. It just in a couple of games it hasn't shown up. One of the biggest things, and I'll segue this to segment 3, they can't play down to the competition. They've been doing that, and they have to realize that it's me versus me. Your competition is your standard, and they have to play to their standard every single week, and they're learning how to do it.
Well, I think that's what the Titans are hoping for. Drag them down in the mud, let them play our game, not their game, and it'll give us an opportunity to win. I got to tell you, folks, I'm terrified to say it, but I think the Titans got a chance to win this game, and we're going to talk about. Of
course you do.
We're going to talk about the keys to victory in this one. What's going to decide it, and I'm going to tell you what I think happens. And Tony will tell me why I'm wrong, which I hope that I am wrong about this one. All right, let's cap off today's crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Titans, Locked On Jags. Again, I'm Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans, Tony Wiggins from Locked On Jags. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day, and thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. But we've talked about the storylines for these teams. We've talked about the individual matchups we think will decide this, and at the end of the day here, Tony, I'm looking at what the keys to victory are for the Titans. And I want to say, as I say every week, please run the ball. Find a way to run the ball. But I think the reality here is the Titans simply cannot run the football. They can't do it. So what they're going to need is they're going to need a combination of 2 things. They're going to need explosive plays in the passing game. They're going to need to just hit some big shots down the field. The pressure gets on Cam Ward. Cam Ward's going to have to put his cape on. That's the only thing good about the Titans offense right now is when Cam Ward throws the cape on, does something magical, and gives the Titans a chance. He's going to have to do that. That's all we're hoping for here because we know that the Titans can't run the football. So I'm just going to say Cam Ward magic. Like you said, some weird stuff's happened to Jacksonville's defense. I need more weird. I need a DB falls down, 2 Jacksonville defenders run into each other and leave a guy wide open for a touchdown. I need, a guy has a Cam Ward dead to rights in the backfield and he shakes him off, runs out and throws it 20 yards downfield on a critical 3rd and long. Like that's the type of stuff that I need to happen. I need the Titans quarterback to be awesome, and I need the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback to be bad because one thing we know about Trevor Lawrence is he will turn over the ball. He will. He's had the majority of his interceptions this year have come when they're leading the game. So, like, whether they're coming from behind, whether they're leading, Trevor is so confusing to me because he's got so much talent. And I've always liked Trevor Lawrence. I've been a defender of Trevor Lawrence. Like, I believe in his talent. But he just makes some bad decisions sometimes. It's just confusing to me. And he's capable of it at any turn. So, the reality is, the Titans need their quarterback to be awesome, and they need Trevor to mess up some. That's the only hope that the Titans have to win this game. But sadly, I'm here to report, I think that might happen, and it will cost the Titans dearly if they win this game. But I think it's going to be really close.
Well, look, most of the Jaguars games are close, and so some of those things that you hope to happen, like you have a quarterback dead to right and you miss him, and then he throws the ball down. That actually happened with Jacoby Brissett last week, and getting a busted play where you have 2 safeties and they get split wide open and some backup wide receiver I never heard of in my life runs a slant and goes for 50. That happened last week too. So here's the thing. You guys struggle on the offensive line, right? So does the Bengals. The Jaguars lost to the Bengals. They were winning the game when Joe Burrow got hurt. They were the team that actually hurt Joe Burrow. He hurt his toe in the Jaguars game, and the Jaguars were actually winning. Jake Browning comes in. Guess what? They lost. Jake Browning has beaten them before. The Jaguars lost to Davis Mills. When they gave up those 19 points in the fourth quarter, that's who it was to. They played Jacoby Brissett, had the lead, ended up in overtime, and the game ended with Arizona in the red zone. And if they'd have scored a touchdown, they would probably gone for 2 because they ain't got nothing to lose. They also played against the Raiders. Every single team I just mentioned has a terrible offensive line. And the Raiders were on the 10-yard line on 4th and goal, and Devon Hamilton dropped back into coverage and knocked the ball down, and the wide receiver was by himself in the back of the end zone.
Wide open.
So my thing is everything that ails you guys, we've seen it before and came in and just did not play well. But here's the thing about it. We didn't lose all those games. They beat Vegas. They beat Arizona. And the thing about these cats, they will find a way, man, to scratch and claw themselves back into a game. Trevor Lawrence had 3 interceptions and 1 fumble that was kind of like an interception because it never hit the ground. That was returned for a pick 6. At the end of the Houston game, had another one, fumbled, returned for a pick 6. That was the margin of victory that made that game look so bad. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get the full Jacksonville Jaguars experience now. I just hope they just get on a plane in Nashville. What's the name of that airport? What's the initials is BNA, right?
BNA.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I hope they be in there on that plane 8-4. That's what I hope that happens at the end of this game is what's happened all year. Like I said, find out who you are and play to that standard each and every week, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think if the thing is the path that you just laid out there, if Jacksonville plays down to Tennessee and doesn't take advantage of some areas of opportunity that they have, and the game is close late, that opens the opportunity for a special Cam Ward play to change things or a bad Trevor Lawrence play to change things. But if Jacksonville commits to running the football in this game, I don't think the Titans are going to be able to stop them from running the football consistently all game long. So the run game, the turnovers, Cam Ward being special, that's really what the keys to victory are for the Titans. And obviously Jacksonville needs to run the football, get pressure on Cam, and just play the way that you're capable of playing. Don't play down to the competition. It's that simple. Tony, I did want to throw this on you and just get your take on this, something that I've been talking about on Locked On NFL. I had Jacksonville winning this division before the year, and I think that they're in a great position to continue to do that. The Colts play Houston, who's playing really good football right now. They go to Jacksonville, which we know the Colts have always had historic struggles with Jacksonville in Jacksonville. Then they got to go on the road at Seattle against San Francisco in prime time on Monday Night Football. Then short week, they play Jacksonville again, and they finish with Houston, who will be fighting for their lives. Am I crazy to think that the Colts could lose 4 of their last 6 games and Jacksonville could catch them?
They could not make the playoffs. We're only 1 game behind. So we can control that with 2 games left. All right. And we split with Houston. The key for us, we got to beat the Titans both times. And then I do believe that there's a chance that the Colts won't even make the playoffs because I actually picked the Colts to finish dead last because I didn't trust their quarterback situation. I picked the Titans to finish 3rd, man. And you picked the Jaguars to finish 1st. Yes. As much as it pains me to say this, you're probably going to end up being more right than I am. But you're right. For Indy, man, it all comes down to it. Tyler, I've never, ever, ever seen a conference have this many teams bottlenecked up that all have to play a tough schedule. And I'm thinking the magic number for Jacksonville is to get to 11. They got 6 games to go. Go 4-2. They still got Denver. That's a very, very tough game. But man, if they get hot and they can win at least 4 of these games, I think they're gonna win the division. And then the Colts and the Texans will probably be playing to see who goes to the playoffs. One team goes to playoffs, the other team goes home.
I think 4-2 makes a ton of sense. The problem is where that other loss comes, because at Denver is going to be a tough game. I think that's going to be a tough game for sure. I could see them losing that, but they play the Titans twice. They play the Jets. You shouldn't lose any of those games, and then 2 games against the Colts. You need to sweep those. I mean, Jacksonville, they got a chance. They got.
We
that's
might,
all I gotta say.
need I say 12-5? Ooh,
I'm just saying they always had and let me use this as a beacon of hope to Titans fans. Jacksonville last year, terrible, right? Top 5 pick, they were 4-13 last year. You have a team with some talent. You get the right head coach in there to kind of do things differently, and your team could be much more competitive right away. So just keep that in your cap. I had faith. I thought Jacksonville's roster had some talent, and they just needed a better coach. And honestly, I think it's played out exactly like that.
They did, and if I'd have told you they'd be 7-4 with a minimum impact because of injury to Brian Thomas Jr., Trayvon Walker, and Travis Hunter, you'd be like, and I mentioned Jordan Lewis, you'd be like, man, you're crazy. So that's why this is all crazy. But Liam Cohen is the real deal. Speaking of coaches, now I got to be petty. How about that dude in New England? My bad, dog. I told you.
Oh, man. It's supposed to be Thanksgiving. We're breaking bread. We're your sense of community, and then we got to do that. Listen, couldn't end it any other way. A little friendly banter there with the ugly cousins of the AFC South. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's Crossover Thursday. Locked on Titans, Locked on Jags. We'll have you guys covered with more game preview on tomorrow's episode. And then, of course, we will be back after the game to break it all down. But once again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in. It's Crossover Thursday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.